Hi guys, welcome to today's video, which is going to be all about separation techniques. So there are lots of different separation techniques we can use if we're trying to separate a mixture of substances or materials. So a lot of it depends upon the solubility of the substance. Now, it also depends upon what you're actually trying to get out of it at the end. Now, when there's a mixture, right, quite often we have what's called a solute, which is the solid that's dissolved in it, and we have the solvent, which is a liquid. And so when I'm going to be going through this, I'm going to be talking about whether you want to be able to get the solid out of it or if you want to be getting the liquid out of it, because that really depends upon which technique then you use. Sorry, not depend, that determines which technique you use. So first of all, you need to have a look at your mixture and you need to work, are they soluble in each other? So do they mix? So you might have a solid and a liquid. So does the solid dissolve into the liquid? Or have you got two liquids that dissolve into each other? Or do you have a solid that doesn't dissolve or two liquids that don't mix? So if your substances don't mix, if they're not soluble in each other, there's two techniques you can use. Okay? If you've got a solid that is insoluble in a liquid, you'd use filtration. Okay? And that, using filtration, using a filter funnel with filter paper, that would keep your solid, your solute at the top, and your solvent would go through the filter paper down the bottom and you would separate them out. If you have two liquids that don't mix, such as oil and water, you can use a separating funnel. That's an easy way because one of them will be less dense and will float on top. You can get the liquid down the bottom out of the separating funnel, leaving the other one at the top. So they're fairly straightforward if they don't mix. However, if they are soluble, so they do mix together, it makes it a little bit trickier, and so you need to work out what it is exactly that you're trying to get. So if they're soluble, if you're trying to get the solute out, which is the solid, then the best thing you can do is do evaporation. Okay, so if you've got a solid that is dissolved up in a liquid, you heat it up in an evaporating dish, you get rid of all the liquid, okay, that evaporates off, it leaves you the solid behind, and so evaporation is by far the best technique. If you want the liquid, however, there's a couple of things you can do. All right, if you've got two liquids in together, all right, and they don't mix, all right. If you've got two liquids and they don't mix, you can do either distillation or you could do chromatography to try and separate them out as well. Chromatography doesn't really allow you very often to get the substance at the end unless you're doing column chromatography, but that can be quite useful. All right, so if you've got two liquids that have very similar boiling points, so you can't separate them by distillation, you'd use chromatography. But if you've got a solid dissolved in a liquid and you want to get the liquid off, you could use distillation, so you heat it up, but instead of evaporating it off like you do in evaporation, you collect it using a condenser, all right, and then you condense it back into a liquid form and you can collect it at the end. If you've got two liquids that have got significantly high enough differences in their boiling point, you can also heat them up and collect one off as well. So it really depends upon what it is that you're trying to get at the end and what degree of separation you want to get. Right? If you're only concerned about getting the solid out, which is dissolved in a liquid, then you'd use evaporation. If you're only concerned about getting the solid out, which is not dissolved, you'd use filtration. However, if you want to make sure you get everything out, you'd probably use distillation, or you might use a combination of them depending on what sort of mixtures you've got in there. Best thing to do is just to work out the properties of the materials that you've got in there. Are they soluble? Are they insoluble? What's their boiling point? And then that will help you determine which separation technique to use. Hope this has been helpful, and always, if you've got any questions, just ask. Thanks guys. This is real love. This is real